Good evening, and welcome to this edition of Uncut History. Yeah, so when I first made that intro, I wasn't paying attention to the layout on Clipchamp, and I didn't realize it was 1:1 ratio. Typically I like making mine in 16:9. So I didn't realize till after I processed. So for many, many months, you probably noticed it was just this block on a black surface as an intro to my videos. And it wasn't until a few weeks ago I started adding the blur fill effect, so it kind of fills the whole screen. I've been lazy and I haven't updated the original intro. I've also been considering I want to get some new intro music. I want to get some new intro music. I want something a little more upbeat. It'd be cool if I could have a rock version of Yankee Doodle or Battle Cry of Freedom. The reason I started using When Johnny Comes Marching Home, this particular version I found free on YouTube, and I liked it and I used it. And for some reason, certain streams, I get copyrighted for it. I get struck for it, even though it's by all counts supposed to be royalty free through YouTube. So I enjoy using this intro music, but YouTube's algorithm's a little weird. And the reason I have the avatar on is, well, hold on one moment. That was so you didn't just see my back. You didn't just see the back of my room while that intro's going. Let me turn the camera back on. All right, there we are. How's everybody doing tonight? How's everybody doing? That was my rambling. That's how we were starting it. Think about, yeah, I gotta include Oddball at some point into the funny reels that sometimes I open these streams. I haven't had time really to sit down and make a funny reel. I've been busy working on projects that are going to come out later this month, although they've been interrupted by Mother Nature this week. And according to the weather forecast, they're going to be interrupted again. We had severe wind here in Western Pennsylvania, and it's not good when the wind blows from the southeast. Wind normally comes west to east here in Pennsylvania, not from the southeast. I get a little concerned when that happens. And actually, my neighbor's house got a little banged up during the winds. Thankfully, no structural damage, but they did lose a portion of their porch. Took a little bit of a doozy thanks to the trees. And apparently, by reports, we're getting more high winds for tomorrow. So if you're watching on YouTube, that's why there's the poll, which if you want to join in, what's worse? Snow, ice, rain, wind. I'm voting wind because it never fails. One little tap of wind and we are out of electricity up here. And there are actually still people in this off the beaten path, off the main roads here where I live that still have not gotten power restored from the first windstorm. Now we got the second one rolling through. 2024. Woo. Oh, we got King Bob joining in, and my mouse is just not working. Good. Thank you, mouse. King Bob there again. Trippy has joined us. Evely. Oh, yes. Evely. I should always consider him as an option for music. Wrangler. Oh, Wrangler can't stay around. Well, have a good evening. And he is reminding you to hit the like button down below to let the algorithm know you like historical content. You want to see history videos on this platform. You like to be educated and not have your brain rotted by 30-second lifestyle shorts. Yeah, hyperthermia. Yeah, it's not good. So, with that out of the way, and I also got to check over on Rumble because I don't get access to the Rumble chat for StreamYards. Only YouTube and the Hate Book. Yeah, I keep calling it the Hate Book. Well, tonight's preservation shout out. Now, we do these periodically. I like to tout it as me giving a highlight to projects trying to preserve history, different aspects of history across the United States and sometimes across the world as well. We've virtually traveled over to Japan and virtually traveled over to England to do preservation shout outs. But in reality, it's also because I was a little bit lazy and yeah. I'm like, hey, look, I put links. I got to talk about the history. It's all there. Everybody wins in the end. Yes, I need a little bit of debriefer. Oh, I still had to do some paperwork before we go to tonight's stream. Last week's stream was big. If you if you haven't seen the script for it, there was notes for Steamboat Willie, and then there was the whole Dartmoor prison. That was a thing that was a rabbit hole we went down to, and I nearly fell down at a rabbit hole today getting this stream put together. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But what has set off this stream? What we're going to start off with a little thing that occurred here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And let's go ahead and share the screen. I'm going to bounce over. So last Friday, Independence National Stork Park, part of the National Park Service, put this little news release out. Park seeks input on the rehabilitation of Welcome Park. Now, Welcome Park is a relatively small exhibit in the park site, and it is on the site of what was known as the Slate Roof House. Now, the Slate Roof House was constructed in the very late 17th century and was the residence of William Penn, who was the founder of the Commonwealth. Then the Slate Roof House was unceremoniously torn down in 1867 to make room for who knows what. And then in 1982, different groups got together and decided they were going to preserve the footprint of the house that William Penn resided in for one of his brief stays in the colony of Pennsylvania. And it became known as Welcome Park. It's named after the ship that William Penn sailed across the ocean on when he first came to Pennsylvania back in the 1680s. And there is a statue to William Penn. There ain't too many markers dedicated to William Penn, strangely enough, in the city of Philadelphia. Now, there is a large statue of him on top of, I believe it's, oh God, I'm an idiot. Look at me. I can't even tell you what statue he sits upon. There is a prominent building in Pennsylvania. Part of me wants to say Harrisburg, but the other part of me is saying no, it's there because there was a rule that the building could not be taller than William Penn for many years. So I want to say it was Philadelphia. But like a true like historical marker, there ain't a lot of them in Philadelphia, which was originally the capital of Pennsylvania, and that was briefly the capital of the United States of America. So this is one of the few places you can go and learn about William Penn, at least as a outdoor exhibit. Well, Park Service announced that there is a rehabilitation plan for Welcome Park, and the following stated that they wanted to redevelop the park to talk about various indigenous tribes that lived in Pennsylvania, but we're going to remove the Penn statue. And according to the wording here, which says new exhibit panels will be installed on the south side wall to replace the Penn timeline, the wording comes off that the National Park Service was going to completely remove any mention of William Penn, that they were completely changing the exhibit. And as I mentioned, there really ain't a lot about about the founder of Pennsylvania. People got an uproar about it throughout the weekend. Monday, they were supposed to have an open invite for anybody who had want to speak out about this rehabilitation project. Well, very quickly, it turned into the Park Service coming out and retracting their statement and announcing, no, we aren't planning to take down the William Penn statue. No, that was never our plan. We just, miscommunication led that to be leaked, and it was not fully understood. Meanwhile, politicians on both sides of the aisle are claiming credit for stopping the statue's removal. But I think this gives us a good opportunity to delve into who William Penn was, because while the name obviously gives away why he's important, not a lot of people know today what he did in the 17th century. And that brings the first thing up that I always like mentioning. Most of our traditional textbooks start American history with the American Revolution because the country was founded in 1776. The problem with doing that is there's at least 100 other years of colonial history to get into, 13 different colonies forming, and that's not to mention the endless history we have relating to the Amerindian tribes that were living in North America before European colonists arrived. So that often gets neglected, and people realize that the road to the creation of the United States of America is far longer than we usually give it credit to. Now, let's go back to the 17th century, and let's go back to the birth of William Penn. William Penn was born in 1644 to a very prominent family in England. Penn's father was actually an admiral in the Royal Navy. And during the whole fun times with the English Civil War, the Penn family were actually royalists, which was quite dangerous at the time, considering the king at the time had been disposed, Cromwell was in charge, hijinks ensued. It was a great time. Now, eventually, the monarchy was restored to the English throne, and for support of that, the English king at the time, which I believe was, gonna make sure I'm not getting this wrong, because my English viewers will come in and hammer me for it. So, King Charles II ascended the throne at the end of the English Civil War, and Penn's father basically gave a ridiculous amount of support to the newly crowned king and used funds of the Penn family to reconstruct the Royal Navy after the chaos of the English Civil War. And King, oh, I can't speak. And King Charles II told Penn's father, I owe you one. Remember that for later. Now, one of the ways that the Penn family were repaid for their services in the English Civil War and the aftermath, they were given a relatively large estate in Ireland, which was in the process of being conquered by the British Empire to this point. And young William Penn, who's depicted here, was sent at the age of 22 to Ireland to organize a militia to protect Penn's estate from Irish rebels. Yes, the IRA is not the first instance of rebellion in Ireland. I know, everybody's so surprised. Now, while he was there, although he is fighting the Irish rebels, he gets into the Quaker faith. And what the Quaker faith boils down to, and I know I'm butchering it just for the sake of runtime, essentially the Quakers are different denominations that all have a general agreement that they can see the light within everybody from God, and that they will reject oath of allegiances to any other monarchy because their only allegiance is to God. So they're not going to put their hand on the Bible and swear their allegiance to king and country. They're not going to do that. And they will outright refuse to take up arms to fight for these monarchs. So they are acting as pacifists. The only person that can rule the world is God. God's word is the unspoken truth, even though we're dealing with all these other scriptures. So Penn became greatly involved with the Quaker movement, converted to the Quaker faith, which was highly controversial because his family being of great importance to the English throne, and the English king at this time was trying to tighten up any theological leaks, as you would say, and basically declared the Anglican Church the official Church of England, and you must follow this church, and you better not be a Catholic or so help your God. And in fact, don't be any other religion except follow the official Church of England. So young William Penn got into a lot of trouble as a result of it. Faced regular persecution, even though he was of high nobility. In fact, there was a trial. He got involved in a trial, and let's just say it went in Penn's favor. And the English judge was so upset that not only did he imprison Penn, he imprisoned the entire jury, claiming that they were all traitors. More on that later. So as this is going on, Penn's getting frustrated, and around the 1670s, he starts using his family's wealth to start financing Quaker colonies in East and West Jersey, which gives him the idea, why don't I just go and create my very own colony over in the New World? I mean, all several people of nobility in the British Empire were going to the king, requesting a charter, and then going off to do whatever they wanted to do over in the colonies. Just as long as they paid the taxes to the crown, everything was fine for the most part. So that's what Penn did. In 1680, he's going to appeal, I should say. Oh, what's going on over here? My screen is going bonkers. So everyone goes to jail. Sounds fair. Yeah, just solve the problem that way. Everybody goes to jail. So, I'm getting distracted. So, in 1680, Penn goes to King Charles II and says, hey, remember that IOU you told my father about? I'm here to collect that IOU. Now, don't worry, I'm not asking for too much money. I'm just asking for my own colony so I can create a seed for a new idea of a nation. That isn't what he directly told Charles II, but later writing from Penn kind of reveals that was his intention for this. So in March of 1681, the king granted Penn's wishes and established the colony of originally it was just going to be called Sylvania, which is Latin for forest, but the king insisted that it would be named in honor of Admiral Penn, hence how you get Pennsylvania. So it's not actually named after William Penn, the proprietor of our colony. It was named after his father, even though they all shared the same last name. So William Penn gets quick to work to establishing his new colony with this charter. Now, since so many people were taking out charters from the king, there were some restrictions at this point, such as the please make sure to pay your taxes and your dues for our customs. Also, just to make things a little fair so the proprietor doesn't become an outright dictator, make sure you have an assembly of free men that are elected. Yeah, that's strange to sound. Actually, the monarchy requested that. Well, not the more Parliament requested it, but the British government were actually requesting that of these proprietors. Please have an assembly so you don't become a dictator. That was the short of it. It's strange to think at one point the British Empire were quite what we would call liberal. So Penn sets out, gets his charter down. He's told what lot of land he's been given, which is west of the Delaware River and north of claims by Lord Baltimore, aka what we know today as the state of Maryland. Now, Penn's going to actually do a few tweaks to the charter, and these happened over several years, but I want to list them off now. He wanted his colony to have a free and fair trial by jury. See, I told you that was coming back. Freedom of religion, freedom from unjust imprisonment, and free elections, and wanted to make sure there was a separation of power in play. Now, there is a caveat to the freedom of religion. Though there would be a variety of different religions represented in Pennsylvania once it was colonized, which included German Lutherans. You would also see Mennonites. You're going to see French Huguenots. You're going to see all these different groups of people move over to appease the British Empire. No Catholic could hold a seat of power in the original charter. That wasn't Penn's decision. That was done by the crown to make things happy. But in any case, this was quite a big step toward this idea of religious freedom that'll eventually culminate, at least in the United States, with the First Amendment to freedom of religion, which probably is William Penn's most important contribution to what becomes the United States of America, this notion of freedom of religion. Well, Penn initially sends his cousin over in 1681 to go up the Delaware River and tell the 500 Swedes and Dutch that were living in the valley. Oh, by the way, Pennsylvania was not initially founded by the British. It was founded by the Swedes, and the Dutch also had a claim to it. So imagine their shock when this guy comes up. It's like, hey, you got a new governor now, and he's English, and he's a Quaker. And everybody's like, wait, what? It's like, don't worry. Actually, he's going to tolerate all of you guys. But please give your land to us. We become British, but we're also free to keep our beliefs. Pretty fair deal in 18th century colonial America, sadly. So in 1682, Penn himself came over to Pennsylvania to be its official governor. And one of the big things that he got down to doing was making treaties with the indigenous tribes of the region, most notably the Lenni Lenape, or as you know them as the Delaware. Now, it should be noted that he's only dealing with select leaders. He's not speaking to all of the Lenni Lenape. The Lenape are stretched out in different, I just want to say divisions, which probably isn't the technical term. You have people living in the Delaware River Valley and the Susquehanna River Valley. We even have a few Delaware that are going to be living in the Ohio River Valley, where I'm at, near Pittsburgh. And one does not speak for the other. And when you get into your research, especially with the French and Indian War, this becomes quite a problem. And the British really have this struggle to understand that town is different from that town. But in any case, these treaties he makes are fairly successful. And in fact, with these treaties, he is offering these Lenape citizenship to Pennsylvania, that they will have the rights as any other Pennsylvanian. They actually have the right to a fair trial by jury. And Penn went out of his way to even ensure that if there was a case that had to be listened into that involved a Amerindian, what he would do was he would make sure six people in the jury were white Americans, while the other six were actually indigenous. Which, again, for the 17th, wow, I'm not used to talking about 17th century America. For 17th century colonial America, pretty liberal. And he also offered payment for the land, although payment for land that these guys have been living on for centuries, not really the best. No money is compensation for that. I'm not going to sugarcoat on that end. But Penn was far more liberal than the average proprietor was at this time period. Now, Penn did not stay in Pennsylvania long. His initial stay ran from 1682 through 1684 when he got into a land dispute with Lord Baltimore. They couldn't agree on where Maryland ended and Pennsylvania began, and this almost caused a conflict, like direct arms equipped conflict between Pennsylvania and Maryland. So Penn decided, all right, I'm going to go back over and I'm going to appeal to the king and hopefully he can solve my matters. So Penn left Pennsylvania in 1684 and entrusted it to its council and the assembly. Now, when Penn gets back, he finds, Charles II's dead. King James II is in power. And King James II's like, hey, I really like your family. I liked your religious freedom ideas. Want to be one of my advisors? And Penn's like, I can stay more than just a few months. Well, then King James II would eventually die a few years later, leading to the rise of King William and Queen Mary. They didn't like this idea of religious tolerance, and they declared Penn a traitor. And they actually had him locked in the Tower of London. And what he expected was going to be more than maybe a year stay in England became a 15-year stay in England. Meanwhile, back over in Pennsylvania, when Penn left, the situation was that you have this council, which were elected individuals that would make the legislature and propose it to the governor, which was Penn, or the lieutenant governor. The assembly, which were the free men that could be elected in, they didn't really have much power other than levying taxes, and they didn't like that too much. They didn't like that this small council had all the legislative power, while the much larger body, the governing body, didn't get to do much. And, well, the assembly, not wanting to increase taxes on themselves, meant that since there was not really a lot of taxes in Pennsylvania, they could not sustain the council. So the council had no incentive to meet regularly because they weren't going to get paid for it. They met very infrequently, and there was about a 4-year time where there was no real government in Pennsylvania. It was anarchism in action. Yes, this actually happened. Anarchism actually operated in the colonies for 4 years. And for the most part, it was actually relatively mild because everybody just went on with their businesses and just made ends meet within their immediate family, their immediate communities. And things were fine. Except the crown was a little ticked off because, again, assembly's not levying taxes, so taxes are not being paid to the crown. Penn was notified about this, and Penn first sent over commissioners to try to round up taxes and other customs that were due to the crown. Well, Pennsylvanians just ignored the commissioners. They're like, what do you mean we're free? What do you mean we got to pay taxes and pay dues on shipments? No, go away. So Penn, a little more frustrated, decided to send over a new lieutenant governor. And his name was a guy by the name of by John Blackwell. Now, Blackwell, a little bit about him. He's not a Quaker. In fact, he's a Puritan. Oh, yeah. And I think we know a little thing or two about the Puritans. They're a tight little bunch. A little snippy, aren't they, up there in New England? So you put a Puritan in charge of a bunch of, for lack of better terms, peace-loving denominations that really don't want to pay taxes. Not a good recipe. So Lieutenant Governor Blackwell, when he came over, he was upset that nobody welcomed him when he arrived in New York, had to find his own transportation to Philadelphia, and basically nobody recognized him. He's like, don't you know who I am? I'm Lieutenant Governor Blackwell. You have a lieutenant governor? And the council got back together because they were a little ticked off that there was somebody around knocking at their doors like, pay your taxes, pay your dues. And the council decided, all right, here's what we're going to do. He can't legally issue documents without our seal. So the president of the council, Thomas Lloyd, refused to stamp any seal on the lieutenant governor's paperwork, such as declarations, proclamations, laws, things like that, even if it was the king's word. So Blackwell was ticked off. He demanded the seal, the ink and seal, be shipped over to his office. Lloyd's like, nope. And this went on for several months till we get to about April of 1689. Yeah, 1689, when Blackwell announces to the entire assembly, council and assembly, that he is filing articles of impeachment on Thomas Lloyd and several other individuals, and that he later was going to dissolve the entire council. And everybody else's response was, we're not paying the dues, buddy. So Penn recalled Blackwell and wrote to the council and said, okay, I may have overstepped some boundaries. We're not really communicating really well. How about I give you the lieutenant governor's power? So he's speaking to the council like, you as the council will collectively have the power lieutenant governor normally will have. And council's like, okay, cool. Still not paying your freaking dues. What'd you say? Nothing. Eventually, Penn got out of the Tower of London, and eventually he is going to make his way back to Pennsylvania. But it wasn't until 1699 things had changed. And the assembly, so remember, this is the much larger governing body of Pennsylvania that really only had powers to levy taxes, which they did not want to do. They made demands to Penn upon his return and basically told him, you're not going to be, you've been gone for so many years. We want more powers. We want the right to write our own legislation. We want to elect our own people. We want to, they were already elected, but they wanted different elections. We want more powers. Penn begrudgingly gave them those powers, wrote them into the charter. And for the record, the original charter is used as reference for parts of laws here in Pennsylvania to this day. You know, this charter goes back to the 17th century, is still seen as this very important doctrine that governs the state of Pennsylvania. Although we've had so many constitutions, we keep updating our constitution over the years, but a lot of people tend to look back. What did the original charter say? Let's use that as precedent. William Penn did not stay long during his second stint as second stint here in Pennsylvania as proprietor. In 1702, he was recalled again back over to England, this time to deal with financial matters. So Penn had a monopoly on the early lime industry in Pennsylvania, funny enough, but he wasn't really seeing a profit from it. In fact, he wasn't seeing a profit from anything in the colony. Some of it was blamed upon his financial advisor, to which Penn took a boat, went back to England, and was about ready to have some, let's say, some metaphorical blows with him. But his health caught up to him. He had several strokes, and he ultimately died in 1718. He only spent 4 collective years in the colony he had founded and spent so much years laying out the foundations for. And those foundations, some of which would be incorporated into future constitutions of the state of Pennsylvania, and more importantly, into the creation of the U.S. Constitution. And probably, as I mentioned, his most notable contribution to North America was this idea of freedom of religion, which spread not only through the United States of America was founded, but it also caught wind in parts of Europe as well. Penn is highly important, not just to American history, not just to European history, but to world history. It is, in my opinion, there's good and bad, a lot of good, a lot of bad with Penn. Got to take it as any historian figures you will. That the idea of freedom of religion makes him highly important to American historians. And I think that alone, he deserves a plaque or something in Philadelphia. I feel he deserves something. Now, there has been pushback about the statue remaining. Some scholars have argued since he was a Quaker, and Quakers were highly plain meeting houses, plain clothing, plain gravestones, that he would not be fond with a statue. I think that's an interesting response to consider, but I do still feel, since he is the founder of our state, the state of Pennsylvania that I'm living in, I think he does deserve something. He founded this whole thing. We wouldn't be here without him. So that's the story of William Penn. And one more thing I want to talk about when it gets here to the The whole monument conundrum. The biggest frustration I have is that history is often told in fragments. Now, that cannot be helped because history, everybody sees history from a particular perspective, from a particular viewpoint, from particular bias. It's just how it's going to be. What somebody records in a diary was from one particular lens. I understand that. It's the job of historians to provide a complete picture. I am all for Welcome Park, giving a complete picture to William Penn and the founding of Pennsylvania. There should be talk about the fact that William Penn was a slaveholder. I did not mention this when I was doing my talk earlier, but he was a slaveholder. He did have slaves on his estate in Pennsylvania. Um, that should be brought up. Pennsylvania's history of slavery is so fascinating itself. It's not how people expect. People think Pennsylvanians were all gung-ho abolitionists. They may have been abolitionists in public, but in private, it should be talked about William Penn's relations with the Native Americans and the ramifications this would have on the indigenous population of North America, because his sons and relatives that became future proprietors of Pennsylvania did some not so good things. Cough, cough, the walking purchase. We're going to get to that someday. I know that's going to be an episode of Uncut History, or it will be a video on Readout Productions. Very dirty deal that was done there. But the key is we want a complete picture. I don't like this swinging of the pendulum that seems to happen, because there is this fair desire to say, hey, there's all these other voices that have not been talked about in the past. Let's include them into the conversation. It gives us a more complete picture of what was happening at that time period. But often it seems people are in such a rush for new voices that they think they can just dump the old voices into the trash can, which just frustrates me. We want a complete picture. That is the goal of historiography, studying of history. If you want to be a historian, you want the complete picture. We like all the colorful components. We like the juicy details that don't make the historical figure look all that great in hindsight. But that's what makes it fun, to show that, hey, people, for all these faults, some people can come up with very good things. And also, people with all these good traits may do some very dastardly things as well that are big no-nos. So, complete picture. Not this whole, we're taking out everything relating to William Penn and we're making it something completely different. No, you include it all. Mix it all together. Give the full story. All right, I'm done. I'm done virtue signaling on that. Oh, let's check it on the chat. I've been ranting for a while. Sorry, I probably scared y'all. Wish I had. I'm going to start my own colony money. Yeah, the colony of King Bob. Yes, that's anarchy. You just live your life. Back then, it was survival. I'm filing article impeachment on this prep. What did I do? What did I do that's so cruel? Why would a state want to get rid of the statue of the guy who pushed so hard for America's basic freedom? Oh, he has to depart. Hey, have a good evening, Bob. Take care. Don't get blown away like I might get blown away by the wind tomorrow. All right, I was going to check Rumble earlier, and then I got sidetracked with William Penn and statues and articles of impeachment. It's been a crazy evening. Beep, beep. No, I don't want to look at that. I want to look at this one. Can't you do your the Rumble app sometimes is, just a bang. All right. Oh, Lieutenant Bob, which is completely different from King Bob, reminds me that, I forgot you have a Rumble. I do have a Rumble, and the link is in the description below. And if you do have a Rumble account, consider going down there, subscribing to the Rumble version of this account, and liking it over there, because I am trying to grow it over there. And occasionally I do Rumble exclusive streams, stuff that I think may be too spicy for the YouTube and the hate book. I haven't done one in a while. The last one I did was about JFK. Probably get back to that maybe sometime in February. We'll see what happens. Don't be, the full story is important. Yeah, landlord called me, said to leave water running so the pipe won't freeze. Yes, do that. Do that. Don't let things freeze. That bad things happen. All right. Well, we got more to talk about tonight. A lot more to talk about. And see, I remember the banner. I learned from last week. All right. Now, before we do the part William Penn, this is William Penn when he was young. This is William Penn when he was old. And his portrait has also often made people think that William Penn is the logo on the Quaker Oats. Quaker Oats has come out repeatedly and said, no, William Penn has no involvement with the Quaker name brand. Yes, he was a Quaker. No, we didn't take his visage. So take that as you will. And there's the AP article. Oh, before we do the... I forgot I was going to talk about this. It's a preservation shout out. So, while the National Park Service is debating how they're going to interpret William Penn, the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission, they have a site nearby. Now, this isn't in downtown Philadelphia, but was the estate of William Penn. So he had a residence in the city, which was the slate roof house where Welcome Park is today. But he also intended to have a country estate, and that was Pennsbury Manor. Let's go here. Now, they are closed right now due to the winter months, and that's most PHMC sites. Most PHMC sites are closed in January, February for maintenance. Welcome. Step back in time to the 17th century and immerse yourself into the captivating legacy of William Penn, visionary who sought solace in the embrace of a country life for his beloved children. Penn's dream materialized in the spring of 1683 as the construction of his countryside residence commenced. Nestled on 43 enchanting acres along the banks of the Delaware. Embark on a guided tour where passionate historians will regale you of the tales of William Penn's life and historical significance. Delve deeper into the past with a visit with our award-winning exhibit, William Penn, Seat of a Nation. Providing a nuanced perspective of one of America's most renowned Quakers and the founding principles that shaped the nation. Gardening. Colonial Americans. Life at Penn's Manor and the Colonial Revival. And the Manor House. And so much more. Now, I'm unsure if this is the original manor house or it's a reconstruction, but this is the historic property that William Penn originally meant as an estate. And as I mentioned, he only spent 4 years. So he had all these plans, he employed all these individuals, and it really didn't work out for him. What kind of usually is the story of most of our founders in America. Let's see if I can find a little more information here. Events, history, exhibitions. Let's talk about Seed of the Nation. Seed of the Nation. Winner of the 2011 Award of Merit from the American Association for State and Local History, the nation's most prestigious competition for recognition of achievement in state and local history, William Penn, Seat of the Nation, explores Penn's desire to create a place that stood for fairness, religious tolerance, acceptance, and representative government. The exhibit features objects excavated from the foundation of William Penn's original summer house and kitchen house during the archaeological dig conducted at the Pennsbury Manor in the 1930s. A copy of the charter, dioramas featuring life-size models of early Pennsylvanians who labored, enslaved, indentured, and freely at Pennsbury Manor and many fun hands-on activities. So that's their new exhibit. And I think the other one here, so this is an article. Oh, has sound. So this is an article related. There is music. The sound of the wind, how to listen, play or visit public programs, virtual. Oh, this is interesting. So this is a Lenape history, a Lenape interpretation of the Pennsbury Manor. You probably can't hear the music. I will drop a link if you're curious, because this is interesting. This Pennsbury Manor, yep, okay, it's a reconstruction of William Penn's country estate set on 43 acres along the Delaware. So I'm wondering, is this the indigenous term for what Pennsbury Manor is? Or is this like a whole separate thing? Interesting. I'm interested in this. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna drop actually the link to that. Yeah, Quaker Oats, he really was this inspiration. Well, he wasn't. I like to think he was, though. I like to think they just don't want to admit it. So yeah, you can go visit William Penn's estate. Oh, well, at least a reconstruction of it with original artifacts. And I'm gonna drop the link. They reopen in March. So if you're in the Philadelphia area, maybe a future video. We'll see what happens. All right, back to what I was originally going to do. I got sidetracked. I forgot that was part of the preservation shout out. Sorry, Pennsbury. All right. Shifting perspectives over from the, I can't believe we're talking about the 17th century on this channel. That was cool. To the 19th century, we're getting into something we're more familiar with here, and that's the American Civil War. And particularly, we're talking about the H.L. Hunley. Many consider it the first successful attack submarine ever constructed. It was actually constructed by the Confederate States of America, though interestingly, it's not part of the Confederate Navy. It was almost a privateer ship. It was made for private funding and was contracted out by the Confederate Army to attack Union warships. Yeah, I figured that one out. There's a whole story why it is the way that is. Now, the Hunley was set and actually successfully let's just go to the overview. Let me let the museum speak for themselves. On February 17th, 1864, the H.L. Hunley became the first successful combat submarine in world history with the sinking of the USS Housatonic. After completing her mission, she mysteriously vanished and remained lost at sea for over a century. For decades, adventurers searched for the legendary submarine. A century later, the National Underwater and Marine Agency, led by New York Times bestselling author Clive Cussler, finally found the Hunley in 1995. News of discovery traveled quickly across the world. A groundbreaking effort began to retrieve the fragile sub from the sea. The Hunley Commission and Friends of the Hunley, a non-for-profit charged with raising funds in support of the vessel, led an effort with the U.S. Navy that culminated on August 8, 2000 with the Hunley's safe recovery. She was then delivered to the Warren Lash Conservation Center, a high-tech lab specifically designed to conserve the vessel and unlock the mysteries of her disappearance. The Hunley has since been excavated and proved to be a time capsule, holding a wide array of artifacts that can teach us about life during the Civil War. The submarine and the hundreds of artifacts found on board are currently undergoing preservation work, while archaeologists use the historical clues that have found to piece together the final moments of the Hunley and her crew. The website does a far better job of summarizing it, and there is a brief timeline. So, experimentation with a submarine that could be used in warfare goes back to the 18th century. In fact, there was an attempt by the United States Navy to create what was known as the Turtle during the Revolution, and they were going to try to bore mines into the warships that were docked in New York. Was it New York or Boston? Now I'm second guessing myself and make me look like a dork. Anyways, it didn't work out, so it can't hold it. It was one of the first attack submarines, but it wasn't successful. Well, during the American Civil War, they pulled back those old drawings. Both the Union and Confederacy were trying to figure out how they can implement a submersible into warfare. Remember, guys, this is 19th century. Everything, there's no deep diving, so there's no electrical lighting. It's crazy that they're able to create this technology during this time period. Warfare will do a heck of a thing for innovation, sadly. Both sides were in a neck and neck race to create this. Think of this kind of like almost a space race in the 19th century between the Union and Confederacy. They were in a race to create the first submersible that could be used in warfare. And this shows that initially, a gentleman by the name of H.L. Hunley, he tested a design for what's known as the Pioneer. Didn't work out too well, but he was happy enough to move on to the American Diver, another Hunley predecessor. Also didn't work out too well. In April of 1863, the Hunley was worked on in Mobile, Alabama. In July, the first test was done of the Hunley. It didn't go too well. You're noticing a theme here. Oh, yeah, eventually here. Noticing a theme here. Yeah, in August, the Hunley sinks during a test mission. Yeah, it didn't go too well. Then, in October, the second test, it also didn't go too well. And the second sinking actually killed H.L. Hunley himself, leading to the third effort with modifications on February 17th, as we mentioned. This time, the crew successfully attacked the USS Housatonic, and then it sunk and was never recovered until 2000, when it was brought up to the surface. And then in 2004, the final crew were given a long overdue burial And some of you might actually remember the burial. This was highly profiled in 2004. It may just be the most highly profiled American Civil War burials of the 21st century. Full military honors were given to them. Now, what I find interesting about this museum is that it's a mixture of like a science center. So, like every city got like a science center to explore cool little things about science. Pittsburgh got the Carnegie Science Center. But it's a mixture of science center with a American Civil War museum, like a battlefield museum of artifacts from warfare. It's kind of mixing the two together. There's no other museum I can think like that combines, is very focused on combining science with history, at least for a military setting like this, which makes it such a unique, especially for the American Civil War. I mean, we all have to talk about the American Civil War. Me sitting here with my glasses and imagine me smoking a pipe and going, yes, Robert E. Lee, he shouldn't have launched that last assault. We don't often think about it being a real life, like this is science. We're excavating, we're piecing together the story minute by minute. You can come and see us actually doing the work on conservation. So part of the exhibit is you can go and you can see this stuff being conserved in real time. It's crazy. The end goal is that the Hunley, after it goes for many, many years of, I guess, and this isn't the technical term for it, but detoxification, getting all the salts off of it, it will eventually be put up in display that you can get right up and close to it. That's the end goal. Right now, they're still trying to get all of the salt off of it. Probably the craziest artifact they found is this right here, this gold coin. It was on the Hunley's captain, George Dixon. It's a $20 gold coin. It's said to be given by his sweetheart, and it was said for many years that this coin stopped a bullet from killing Dixon at the Battle of Shiloh, which, if you remember, we talked about the Battle of Shiloh last April. If you haven't checked out that Uncut History, be sure to do so. We only talked about a certain aspect of it, though. We were talking about the Hornet's Nest. I don't know where Dixon was involved during the battle. But for many years, there was this story. Coin was given by his sweetheart to Captain Dixon. Why he was in the infantry at Shiloh. He got shot, but he was spared a wound because it hit the coin, and he actually had the coin engraved to confirm it, and he carried on him as his lucky charm, and it was on him when he went down with the Hunley. And again, you might be asking, wait, what is Dixon doing with a submarine? He's infantry. Again, the Confederate Army had jurisdiction over the Hunley, not the Navy, which caused some problems, caused some headaches. Well, when they did the excavations in the submarine, you can see right there, they not only found a gold coin on Dixon, it was engraved stating, "My life's preserver, April 6, 1862, Shiloh." So often our myths are shattered. And I mean, that's part of history, telling what really happened so we don't make mistakes as the past. But sometimes you just want some of these stories to be true, some of these myths to be true, just because how sweet they are. And this is one of those cases where, yes, yes, this is true. This larger than life story did happen. The sweetheart part's still debated, but the rest of it is true. And yes, if you look at I don't even think you can see it from this perspective. The coin is bent. It's clearly was hit by a bullet. So that's just one of the many artifacts they've excavated from the crew. And there's something so weird about this. Usually we see these artifacts from battlefields, like battle dug bullets, parts of rifles, artillery pieces. It's sometimes can be disconnecting. It's like, oh, cool, piece of shrapnel. You don't really think about oh yeah, this probably killed somebody. This took somebody's life away. These are personal artifacts, personal effects that all went down with the 8 crew members the day the Hunley sunk. There's something eerie about that, but also there's something nice knowing that finally there's so many voices that are silent from the American Civil War that they just didn't have their time to record their history. These 8 guys, one day their story is going to be fully known, far more complete, and can speak for the rest, can speak for others, is what I'm saying. I don't know what I'm saying. I'm trying to be poetic and I'm falling apart. Oh, look, shoes. I'm a reenactor. I like me a good historical shoe. Now, if you want to go to visit us, well, you can go right here. See, it's on the map. Let's go a little farther back, see where we're at. See, it's just north of Charleston, South Carolina, where you can go visit the Hunley experience. Yeah, they don't necessarily call it a museum. They call it the Hunley experience. And deservedly so. You're experiencing the past and the preservation of it. Like I said, there's few other places that you can go in the United States that's like that. We're mixing a science center with a military museum. It is awesome. And yes, you can actually see the Hunley on display. Again, it's in a big tub, but you can see it on display. Now, if you're not able to get there in person, well, our friend Josh at History Savior 1941, he recently just uploaded his visit to the H.L. Hunley experience. So, if you ever have a chance, if you ever have the chance, be sure to go over, stop by History Saver 1941's channel, and you can explore virtually the H.L. Hunley Museum. And I'm, of course, going to drop a link. Sorry, I'm blocking the screen. Yep, I think he's right now going to start talking about the coin. I know the audio's not on. We're not playing all of it. It now just went white on me. There's his. Be sure to go check out his channel. And there's the coin. And you can probably see much better here that yes, it is bent. It was hit by a bullet. So if you want to virtually explore the H.L. Hunley experience, go over and check out History Saver 1941's video on it. And if you're there, if you're close in person and you can go yourself, well, check out the H.L. Hunley website and see when you can book yourself a trip. And if you're not able to go there directly, well, their website is a great resource to learn about the first successful attack submarine in world history. So the links for History Saver 1941's video and the Hunley website are in the description below. Well, what else do we got? Oh, we got more to talk about tonight. Look at that beautiful painting. I'm going to go over and briefly check out, see what's going on over on the YouTube end. I want to check out how the poll's going. How's the poll going, guys? I just opened up Explorer's news feed, and I just lost all hope in humanity. It's so, I was getting so excited. I'm like, oh man, I'm doing all this, I'm talking about all this history. Hopefully it's doing a lot of good. Maybe people will be educated to walk away with a new fact they didn't know about, make them a little level headed. And then I open up a news browser and it's just like, the world is ending. It's the end. We're going to war with everybody and everything, Mother Nature included. God help you all, but don't God help you because that might offend somebody. I just need to avoid the internet I need to avoid the internet like a plague for a few days. I need to go up into a log cabin, let the snow block in my door, enjoy some nice coffee by the fire. No lights, just candlelight. Well, I do want the electricity for some indoor plumbing. I am a little bit like that. Oh, wow. I'm let the poll run a little longer, but there is a clear winner. There is a clear winner. I will say that. A clear winner. Wow, I just realized you've been looking at this lovely, pretty painting this whole time and just probably wondering, what the heck is he doing? What the heck is Reno Productions doing? Well, I've lost my mind, so I'm just going to come back. Hi, my brain's still inside the hat. In history, we trust. Yeah, I should steal that. I should steal that and make that slogan. Then we can have a great war over it. And then Trippy Soul, water sucks. It really, really sucks. You don't win against water. If events in Johnstown in 1889 taught me, you don't win against water. And as the waters from Mars have taught me from Doctor Who, water always wins. Yeah, I just brought up two references, one to Uncut History and one to my Substack somehow. Figured that one out. Okay. Let's calm down. Let's drink my water. I guess I technically was sucking water down my esophagus to hydrate myself there, Trippy. Sometimes you need water. Water is good for the body, but not good all the times. Gatorade. When's the last time you've seen Waterboy? What? Oh. I don't think I've ever seen Waterboy, honestly. I know what it is, but I've never actually seen Waterboy. Not like the whole way through. Maybe I did. Maybe I'm just being a dunce and forgetting it. I don't know. Yeah, and we're also approaching that 1 hour mark. So remember, this is where we get a good solid hour of me being a historian, and then I become a dork. I get loopy after the hour. So that's when the real fun. Oh yeah, I got to see that later on. All right. All right. I keep saying all right. Let's go to New Jersey. I know some people might be going, oh no, not New Jersey. Oh, the horror. No, no, this is good. This is good. I promise. We're going to New Jersey because we're talking about the Battle of Princeton, which was fought January 3rd, 1777, and was part of what many call the 10 crucial days of the American Revolution. This was made famous by the Delaware River crossing on Christmas night, December 25th, 1776, when George Washington decided, you know what? I'm going to pull a pro gamer move. Nobody's expecting it. And I'm going to raid the Hessian garrison at Trenton, New Jersey. And he did achieve his mission. Contrary to belief, it was not completely by surprise. The Hessians had warning. They just didn't take that warning seriously. So they were very surprised when the Continental Army showed up on their doorstep and eviscerated the Hessian colonel. Now, what a lot of people don't focus on is that was just a piece of a larger campaign. So let me set the scene for you. In 1776, the new United States was successful in kicking the British Army out of Boston, which had started the whole mess back in 1775, the Revolution. Well, Washington was pretty wise to understand that the British aren't leaving, they're redeploying, and they'll be back here in a few months. So let's start fortifying New York, because that's where most likely they're going to land, and it is indeed where they landed in the summer of 1776. It did not go well for the Americans. This was a one. It actually, I believe, the Battle of Long Island was the largest battle of the entire war in terms of numbers, landmass. It was the largest battle of the war. The Continental Army nearly got cut off and captured that day, but through Mother Nature, fog rolled in, and Washington was able to evacuate the survivors out off of Long Island and fought a retreating action across. I'm getting distracted. Across Manhattan, cross over to Brooklyn Heights, and then cut across New Jersey as winter set in, being pursued by the British. The first Delaware crossing was made as the Americans crossed Delaware into Pennsylvania, hoping that would be a buffer between them and the British to save them from any more conflict. The British decided the Americans were all but wiped out and that we can take care of them in the summer next year. And they left the western half of New Jersey lightly garrisoned by British and Hessian forces. That's what gave Washington the idea to go and raid Trenton and catch them while they're off guard, raise the morale of the Continental Army, keep his few soldiers around, and potentially draw in new recruits saying, hey, no, we're still alive. We're not dead yet. Leading to the second Delaware crossing, the famed one to go and attack Trenton. Now, in the wake of that, Washington went back across the Delaware for a third time. And if you're getting exhausted, yes, this is intentional. I want you to make you feel exhausted like these American soldiers must have been. Like, what are we doing, George? And Washington realized, I'm in a predicament. Yeah, I succeeded at Trenton, but my army's looking for more. Like, okay, we sacked Trenton. Can we do more? And he decided, I'm going to make a fourth crossing, and we're staying in New Jersey for the rest of the winter. And I'm going to try to draw the British into one more battle. So he makes his fourth crossing. Now, by this point, the British are getting pretty ticked off. They thought the Hessians could handle the situation. General Howe, who was in overall command of British forces in America at the time, he had initially sent home his deputy, Cornwallis, to go home. But after what happened in Trenton, just as Cornwallis was getting on the boat, he called Cornwallis over and said, we got a problem. The Americans haven't surrendered yet. You're going to have to go down to New Jersey and solve the matter. So Cornwallis, a little bit ticked off, got about 5,000 to 6,000 British soldiers together, led them across New Jersey, came into Trenton in early January. He moved into the town, met some resistance from American pickets, and he decided by the end of the day, okay, the Americans are encamped along the Assunpink Creek. We'll deal with them the next morning. Wakes up the next morning. American army not there. Where has George gone? Well, what has George Washington done? He has moved south to Birmingham and then has moved north. So, yeah, it makes sense. He's moved to the southeast and now he's moving to the northeast. He is moving toward Princeton because Cornwallis, the British commander, had left a small garrison there under command of Lieutenant Colonel Mahood. And Washington's hoping he can repeat what he had done in Princeton. Sack Princeton, sack the British garrison, get supplies, and keep moving inland, forcing Cornwallis and the British to retreat out of western New Jersey. This is a very dangerous plan because if it fails, Washington could be completely cut off in the countryside of New Jersey with no way of escaping back to Pennsylvania, and the war could be over. Again, why it's called the 10 Crucial Days. Well, on January 3rd, Washington's getting ready to make his raid on Princeton. What ends up happening is one of those freak moments in history. Lieutenant Colonel Mawhood is told that, hey, there's an American presence in the area, and is told by Cornwallis, get your butt down here to Trenton. We got a serious problem. Where's Washington? So Mawhood is leaving Princeton, going south. Now, he decides to leave about a rear guard of a few hundred guys in the rear to take charge of a bridge. Meanwhile, Washington is moving along the tree line. So Mawhood is moving down this road in an open farm field south of Princeton. And just a few hundred yards to his, I'm trying to think, would be to his east. There's Washington and the American army. They're moving at the same time, but they can't see each other. Well, Washington decides to detach Hugh Mercer with a few hundred Americans to go take charge of the very same bridge that Mawhood had detached his rear guard to take charge of. Well, just as Mawhood is going out of sight and just as Washington's going out of sight, Mercer's rear guard and the British rear guard notice each other at the bridge and start attacking each other. And both Mercer and the British commanders send for reinforcements, tell their superiors, hey, we found the enemy force. So like there was this moment where they could have nearly missed each other, but the last possible moment, they both noticed each other. And a battle ensues south of Princeton. It's going to occur primarily on the Clark Farm, as both the Americans and the British are actually making a mad dash for a Orchard Hill, this high ground that's to the north of Clark Farm. If you can get control of Clark Farm, they can control the open farm field and decide who's going to take Princeton as a result. So Mercer tries to hold out until Washington could reinforce him. It doesn't go well for the Americans. The British 17th foot equip themselves with the bayonet. They charge right at Mercer. Mercer refuses to retreat, and Mercer is bayoneted multiple times as a result. And he will die eventually of those wounds, so it would take about a week. Now, Washington arrives on the scene shortly later, sees the Americans walking off. Washington personally leads the army within 30, I think he's within like 30 yards of the British line of fire, trying to get his men to attack. And basically he declares the whole thing, come on, boys, it's a fox chase. Go, get them. So this rallies the Americans. They assault Mawhood. They charge across the Clark Farm, push Mawhood up and over the high hill that's north of the farm, and disperse them into the countryside. Some of the Americans pursue the British into the town of Princeton, where there would be fighting and ultimately would surrender. Others, such as I believe Mawhood himself, were more successful and were able to escape south to Trenton to reinforce Cornwallis. Battle Princeton declared an American victory. Cornwallis is forced to evacuate Trenton, or else he would be cut off by the Americans, and he essentially abandons western New Jersey. Washington gives chase, eventually making winter quarters at Morristown for the remainder of winter 1777. Now, by all means, the American Revolution was not decided on these 10 crucial days, but it was kept alive. And the United States was given a fighting chance because of Trenton, which gets all the publicity due to the Christmas Day crossing, and also Princeton. Now, you can go visit the Princeton battlefield today. Now, the problem is, for many years, it's been ran by the New Jersey State Park System, and they've done it, and there should be no discredit to them. They've done a fine job of educating the public with assistance from a variety of non-for-profits, such as the Princeton Battlefield Society, which is a non-for-profit group, volunteer group that tend to offer battlefield tours. They also offer tours of the Clark Farm. Here you can see here, scheduled tours for individuals and families are held from May through October on alternate Sundays. Go to the Thomas Clark Farm. Built in 1772, in the middle of what was then a 200-acre farm, the historic Clark House, in outward appearance simply a white clapboard farmhouse, but this was a historic feature of the Battle of Princeton. The Clarks, third-generation Quaker family of the Stony Brook Quaker settlement, turned the house into a field hospital following the fighting, taking in both British and American wounded. Despite being cared for by Dr. Benjamin Rush, American General Hugh Mercer died here 9 days after the battle from being shot and bayoneted. Mercer County in New Jersey, which is the site of the battle, is named in his honor. The historic Clark House is the only remaining structure from the time of the pivotal victory that set our revolution on the road to success, and the heritage and meaning of our struggle for independence is within its walls. After nearly 250 years, age and weather have taken a toll. The wooden house has shown signs of deterioration, especially walls near windows and doors, and most recently, the foundation itself. Because of its inherent historical significance, because its house exhibits critical to interpreting the history of the battle, preserving its house is among the highest priority of the Princeton Battlefield Society. We need stewards and caretakers to join us. And the reason I'm bringing that up is these different entities, the New Jersey State Park System, the Princeton Battlefield Society, the American Battlefield Trust, who we have talked about multiple times on this channel. They're all teaming up with other entities who you can see are listed below, such as the Princeton Friends Meeting House, Princeton Friends School, Princeton Municipal Government, New Jersey Sons of the American Revolution, Crossroads of the American Revolution. And like I said, there's a lot going into this. Back in October, they announced this cooperative venture, Washington's Legacy, transforming the Princeton battlefield, honor revolutionary heroes. The situation is currently the battlefield isn't the way we would want it interpreted. So this is an overlay of what they'd end up want to do. You might be able to see the Google map underneath. Actually, tell you what, is there a better way I could show you, give you a visual of what the current property looks like? Yes. Hold on one moment, guys. I want to show you what it currently looks like and then what it could be, because it's better to have a then and now perspective. Bear with me. I wasn't prepared for my job. I'm not going to say I'm the worst host on YouTube. I'll just say I'm the second worst. How about that? I think that's fair. Go to Princeton. Bit of layers. Yeah. All right. We're back. We're back, everybody. Here we are. There we are. So this is a Google Map overview of the current state park. You can see the clear patch of ground. You can see the colonnading grave site, the Clark House itself. And then, although it's not part of the park itself, adjacent to it is the Princeton Meeting House. And that is a Quaker meeting house. Interesting. See, we're tying it all in. We talked about William Penn, the famed Quaker. Now we're talking about Quakers on a battlefield. Historic Overlook Park. What? I'll look at you later. Now, here's the situation. This is not the core. This is not all of the battlefield. This is, to be kind, a third of the historic fighting. We're really looking at the left flank. So what is preserved, this patch of ground here, that's the left flank. This would be the center. And then the right flank is completely covered over today by Princeton University. And of course, there was fighting that occurred in downtown Princeton as well. So due to the development of Princeton University and the town of Princeton itself, the right flank of the battlefield has been completely lost, and a good portion of the center has been lost. And they almost lost, if you see the square track here, they almost lost this track. This is called Maxwell Field. And thankfully, we did not lose this. If we had lost this, we would have lost the spot where Washington led the countercharge at Princeton. We were that close to losing that piece of ground. Yes. So these entities have gone together and realized this is a battlefield in urgent danger that needs proper preservation and interpretation. So what the end goal is, now we can look at the overlay. So now we have a feel what the battlefield currently looks like. Now we got the overlay, what they want to do. And that is they want to bring the historic tree line back, or to the very least have a tree line that masks the modern development around the park. That would include removing the trees around the Clark House, because again, it was a farmhouse. There were not trees around the Clark farm itself. And they want to move they want to construct a proper visitor center. Currently, the visitor center is housed within the Clark House, from what I've gathered. And as we just mentioned, the Clark House needs some major TLC to get it back to its battle appearance. So the idea is to move visitor services, which currently consists of the Clark House and a parking lot that goes to the Clark House, get that off the battlefield, move it out of sight so it doesn't obscure the historic line of fire, restore a piece of the road, the wagon road that Washington was using to cross and kind of cause this whole mess. Remember, I told you guys, like, look, see the red dots there? That's the wagon road Washington was taking. And then you can see the modern road, which was the historical route to the British Army. Yeah. It's so crazy how they almost missed each other. And then they also preserved the stump of the white oak that's reportedly where Hugh Mercer was bayoneted to death. So that is the mission. There is a full video. We're not going to play today. I'm going to drop the link to it. The American Battlefield Trust did a fantastic 13-minute video talking about their vision for the restoration of this property, and I'd recommend you checking it out once we're done talking. A little bit here. Raising the stakes. Yep. Using a grant from the National Park Service, American Battlefield Protection Program, the Trust worked with experts in public history and landscape architecture to create a detailed and innovative plan to reimagine the park. Numerous partners and stakeholders, including New Jersey State Historic Sites and Parks, Princeton Battlefield Society, and the New Jersey Sons of the American Revolution, helped to create the final vision of Washington's legacy. Upon the plan's completion, the Trust eagerly socialized its concept and was empowered by positive feedback and community enthusiasm to find pathways to bring the vision to life. So here's what this is the vision for Washington's legacy, what the new battlefield, the new interpretation of battlefield look like. Removing modern obstructions on the preserved left flank of the battlefield and incorporating Maxwell's Field, the site of the famed charge. So this is what the end goal, at least hopefully, will be, the preservation. And I can't state enough about when you're at a historic site and you get it as close as you can to its historic appearance, the wonders it does to education. It explains a lot of the thought process of the individuals involved in these historical events. You can read about it on paper. You can look at maps about it, but you probably will still question, wait, why didn't they just do this? Why are they making this ridiculous movement? They're going out of their way. Why are they doing this? But when you stand on the site and it's preserved as close as how they would have saw it, how Washington Mahood would have saw it, then you realize, okay, I get why they had to make that decision. I understand why they had to do what they had to do. And then this is a concept art of what the new visitor center could potentially look like. Like I said, the visitor services will be pulled off of the present battlefield park. And I think they also have an idea of a big bay window that'll look right out onto the battlefield. And you can see there the White House just behind the school bus. That's the Clark Farm. New entrance to the park will immediately give visitors a dose of the battlefield's history as they walk upon lands adjacent to the Princeton Friends Meeting House, a place of worship for the Quaker community dating back to 1726. The Quaker perspective provides an opportunity for visitors to contemplate the game-changing battle being fought upon lands that were home to those who wished for a peaceful resolution of differences. New signage and historical content, developed to foster a sense of historical inquiry, will line interpretive pathways throughout the battlefield. By installing signage and encourage visitors to interact with the battlefield, Washington's legacy aims to create opportunities for critical thinking. And there's an idea of what one of the interpretive plaques could look like. So you can go and financially contribute to Washington's legacy, this effort to upgrade the interpretation at the Princeton battlefield right now. And I will drop the link in the description below. I, too, am very happy that there are people out there that want to save this, especially considering it's in a urban environment. We have lost so many battlefields to urban sprawl. And, sometimes I've always said you got to pick and choose your preservation battles. I understand some of them just cannot be won. This is one that needs to be won because of how important it is to the creation of our country. Those 10 crucial days, every component of that campaign decided if this country was going to live or die. And also, you could argue, decided the fate of the British Empire. Like, was this going to be a quick war or is this going to be a long war? Because this has dire, I think we often overlook as Americans how this is going to impact Europe. The American Revolution inspires people in France to conduct their own revolution, which causes a complete mess for the world for about two to 3 decades to come, with the rise of Napoleon and all the Napoleonic Wars that follows. So these key battles, Trenton, Princeton, got to be preserved. And Trenton, since it occurred in downtown Trenton, you can't really preserve that battlefield. The Trenton barracks are there. The old barracks are there. And again, I got to talk about them one day. I got to get them on as guests one day. I've got to talk with some of their interpreters before, and they are a blast if you ever get to go visit the Trenton barracks. But also, Princeton has the advantage that we actually have a piece of battlefield preserved. Let's go to the fullest on it. So yeah, that's the Battle of Princeton, its importance, and how you can support the upgrades of its interpretation of Washington's legacy. And I need a water break. I need a water break so badly. Oh, good news. I think I put down the Hunley thing. So I did put down the Hunley banner, right? When I start talking about Princeton, that would be highly awkward if I didn't. So I'm just going to drink. All right. Well, we're winding down the stream tonight. But before we go, I think you know that before we leave, I like shouting out a work of fiction. Now, this is predominantly a nonfiction channel. Why do I want to talk about fiction? The nonfiction stuff's where all the facts are. Why is fiction? We don't need that. Yes, we need fiction. We need stories. We need parables. We need myths. We need these legends, because these are ways how we can summarize good morals. This is how we can summarize life lessons that are important for humanity to keep surviving. And they're cool. There's also a lot of good artwork, a lot of good linguistic tools used to it. So they come hand in hand. In my opinion, you need nonfiction to inspire those storytellers to create wonderful worlds that we can get immersed into and teach us very important morals, and also just have a lot of fun with it. And on the other hand, you need fiction sometimes because, like I mentioned, one hand, fiction can be used to summarize and deliver morals in a powerful manner, deliver parables that nonfiction really cannot. And also, sometimes you just need to turn your brain off. Considering, I kid you not, we're going to Microsoft Edge's browser right now. Let me tell you about all the things that they're wanting me to know about. Breaking: U.S. and Britain launch strikes against targets in Houthi-controlled Yemen. Trump town hall viewership on Fox News tops CNN's Republican debate audience. South America accuses Israel of genocide and urges top UN court to halt Gaza war. San Francisco school districts direct teachers to resources that condemn Israeli something. Tribes wanted to promote their history. Removing Penn statue wasn't a priority. They probably should have reworded it that way then. They mismanaged that one. Yeah, it's a lot of depressing stuff over here. Sweden breaks neutrality stance after 200 years, commits ground troops to NATO operations. New COVID variant is dominant in the U.S. CNN reports crawls over 60 feet underground to visit tunnel. IDF says they used. Number 15, Louisville woman dominate the fourth quarter. Okay, you get my point. We need fiction because I need to turn my mind off and I need something fun. So that was a very long just explanation of why we need fiction. Here we are. Here we are. We finally got there. Janice Hardy's The Healing Wars, Book 1, Part 1, The Shifter. Naya is surviving in a city crippled by war. Trying to escape war. If the enemy finds out she can shift pain from one person to another, they will weaponize her. And this is on Fund My Comic by Brian Menard. Brian was published with 2 other small press comic companies before launching Dojo-kun Comics in 2014. Since starting Dojo-kun Comics, the company has produced 13 titles and successfully crowdfunded a trade paperback, A Siamese, and the one-shot Western superhero title, Project Reptile. think we should watch the trailer. We should watch the trailer. But that, you know what that means. I gotta remove, because I can't share window audio, but I can share tab audio. Curse you, freaking girl. I don't know what that was. Look, guys, we're way past the 1 hour safe limit. You are in peak dork mode with you and me right now. So if you're here this long, you know what you're getting at this rate. All right, here we are. Because I want to play trailer. It's only 30 seconds. We're gonna play it. Yep, here we are. I'll be right back.
Naya is an orphan with a rare gift. Others with this gift can take pain from a person and transfer it into the cobalt blue metal known as pinvium. But Naya's gift is flawed. She can only transfer pain from one person to another. Orphaned on an island nation occupied by a conquering enemy and trying to locate her missing sister, Naya has to make sure they don't find out, or she'll be weaponized against her own people. Be sure to back Janice Hardy's The Healing Wars, Book 1, Part 1, The Shifter, from Dojo-kun Comics.
There we are. So, yeah. There's the trailer. Now, Dojo-kun Comics has the exclusive license to bring you award-winning novelist Janice Harding's trilogy, The Healing Wars, in comic book form. So, this is already a novel from what I can gather. What Dojo-kun is doing, he is adapting it to the visual world. He's using his artistic skills to adapt this to a wider audience. Written in the same exciting adventure-type hero's journeys as titles like The Hunger Games and Divergent, this trilogy features Naya, an orphan struggling to survive in a city crippled by war. She is a taker. With her touch, she can heal injuries, pulling pain from another person into her own body. Unlike her sister Tally and other takers who become Healer League's apprentices, Naya's skill is flawed. She can't push the pain into pinvium, the enchanted pivium, the metal used to store it. All she can do is shift it from one to another, a dangerous skill that she must keep hidden from the forces occupying her city. If discovered, she could be used as a weapon against the people. So, interesting concept. I love the mix. I like this mixture of what it looks like 19th, 20th century, like kind of a hodgepodge of different attire, different equipment. I'm always for that. Just like how Streets of Fire is like a mixture of 50s and 80s. You got the 50s attire with the 80s music. Kind of going, it seems like they're going for the same visual feel here, just for centuries instead of decades. So got an interesting cover here. Of course, cover B with an art by Renzo Rodriguez and colors by Josh Rodriguez. And there's some of the interiors. So yeah, I'm definitely looking forward. I'm hopefully eventually can work up I have the spare change to eventually go and back this. I do want to back this, but I got to pick and choose what I back. Because if I backed everything I wanted, I want to have food. Sorry guys, I need my food. So yeah. And let's just look at the different levels right here. Oh, what's going on here? Okay, we're back. $15 for the physical edition. Will be a 28 plus page physical copy. $18 gets you the cover B. And for $8, you can get the ash can variant. $10, ooh, coloring book. $50, one-of-a-kind Dave Ryan Glitter Naya sketch card. $45, this is the Healer League tier, so you're going to get one physical copy of the book, one physical copy of cover B, one physical copy of the ash can, a copy of the original novel. I think that's what it, yeah, one physical copy of the Janice Healing Wars book 1 part. Yep, okay. Yep, we got that. And you also are going to get the coloring book, plus all the stretch goals. And if you got 100, you get this lovely little model of one of the weapons. They're going to be in the book. Oh, there's the model right there. Look at it. Now it's tiny. Man, you what? I know you fought it. I know I want a full-size one of that. But right now we got a tiny version for displays, for shelves. Unfortunately, my shelf is predominantly for movies and anime and stuff like that. So the campaign has a while to go. It's going to be going through October 11th, 2024. So there is some time to back it. But if this project interests you, best get on board now so the team knows that they're going to have better success in getting this funded. So links in the description below if you want to back it. Trippy likes the colors. And we need poetry. Insert poetry in my rant earlier. Let's go to the fullest for it. Yep, let's go. I'm not going to say the last one there. All right, I'm getting loopy. It's official, guys. I've gone over my mark. Oh, I turned back on the internet browser. Oh, the depression. Oh, the real world depression. Nobody learning lessons from history. History's in vain every time I open up internet browsers. Let's check the polls. So, overwhelmingly, what's the worst? Ice. Ice is the worst thing. Nobody voted wind. I'm going to vote wind. But fair play. What's the worst thing? Ice. But we did have some people say snow and rain as well. But ice is the worst. I guess that's the one that could probably cause you the most damage if you step on it. So that's going to conclude this edition of Uncut History. Thank you all for tuning in. We will have a video out this Saturday, even in the event that we have an error high wind situation. I lose power again. I already got it uploaded. So next video come out this Saturday. You guys remember about 6 months back, I had a video about Frank Lloyd Wright's most famous residential home, Falling Water, come out. Well, this is part 2 to that series. Actually, it's technically part 4 of a larger series focusing on Frank Lloyd Wright projects in the Pittsburgh area. So that installment will be coming out this coming Saturday. And then you probably noticed I've kind of set into a new schedule. Tuesdays, I usually post a clip from Uncut History, what I feel was the part I feel that was firing off of all cylinders, or the one that was just the most fun. That if you weren't able to tune in live, you probably should see it replayed. So Tuesdays, clips from Uncut History comes in. Everybody's, oh, hey, thank you for somebody commented. Hopefully it's a real person and not a bot. I get bots commenting on Rumble a lot, and it's a little bit frustrating. So I want real people. I want real people to join in. I want real people to join in. I hope you're a real person. And if you are, thank you. Thank you for joining us on Rumble. Anyways, so current schedule, I'm trying to keep up. Tuesdays, Uncut History clip. Thursdays, live Uncut History. And then Saturdays, we have our featured presentation. Our main video goes up that week. I don't know how long we'll be able to maintain that schedule. I'm going to try my best. I can't promise things as the year goes on, but we'll try. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button. Let the algorithm know on YouTube, on Rumble, on the Hate Book that you want to see videos about history, that you do want to hear about our shared past. If you've not done so already, be sure to subscribe to Readout Productions here on YouTube, on Rumble, and on the Hate Book. I do have a Twitter page. I don't use it too much, nothing more than just to promote when I'm going live and stuff like that. And if you want to go the extra mile supporting me, you can buy me a cup of coffee for the following morning with my Ko-fi page in the link in the description below. And there is a membership program that's in a trial error process right now. We have a soft launch of it last week. It's through Ko-fi, $2 a month. You get to join the Garrison. And by joining the Garrison, you will have access to select scripts, such as the notes to episodes of Uncut History and other content I create. The script for the Adam Stephen video is available in its entirety if you are a part of our Garrison. I'm going to try to get the notes for this week's stream tomorrow. I want to tweak a few things before I publish it. So if you want to become part of the Garrison, $2 a month, and you will get your name recognized at the end of streams and videos in the following weeks. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for supporting. If you're a first-time viewer, return viewer, thank you all. I appreciate it. And it's time to hit the music. Like this. I will upgrade this intro at the very least, so I can have. You don't have to look at on my comment stream at the end. It doesn't look very professional. It's bothering me. I'm like, can't edit it. It's gonna be like this. All right, I'm out.